The campus queen vanished all winter. When spring came, the snowman outside our dorm started bleeding. After it completely melted, a head rolled out. The face was mangled, eyes gouged out, making identification impossible. But it wore a pair of pearl earrings. The ones the campus queen always wore. The snowman's eyes were Nina's, the campus queen. It appeared after the first snow, right in front of the dorm building. Up north, where the cold lasts forever, it hadn't melted an inch. It just stood there, smiling, watching us all winter long. Everyone in the dorm had taken a picture with it, and Nina's head was hidden inside. And somehow, no one noticed. The last time Nina was seen was the night before the snow. Security cameras caught her turning into a blind spot and never coming out. The next day, that snowman appeared. But the cameras didn't pick up anyone else besides Nina. Unless she cut off her own head, gouged out her own eyes, and then built herself into a snowman. The cop looked at me, his eyes unreadable. Anyone with common sense knew that was ridiculous. Nina's most beautiful feature was her eyes. That day, she'd blinked those same eyes when she called out to me. Terror filled her beautiful eyes, her long lashes trembling. Tears welled up, about to fall. "Lucy," she'd said, her voice trembling, "someone in the dorm wants to kill me." She cowered, her shoulders hunched. I couldn't help but laugh to myself. There were 6 of us in the dorm. Besides me, the other 4 were so bullied by her they barely dared to breathe. Who would dare kill her? Thinking this, my expression hardened. Was she messing with me? But her fearful expression didn't change. She kept her head down, picking at her fingers, biting her lip. "Someone really wants to kill me," she insisted. I frowned. Had her bullying gotten worse, pushing someone to the edge? She denied it vehemently. Her face pale, she said, "I found out something I shouldn't have." She packed her bags and left, never returning to the dorm. Before she left, she said she needed to find a place to hide and warned me to be careful too. "There are too many secrets in this dorm. Don't trust anyone easily." After she left, her social media feed kept updating. It looked more like she was on vacation than running for her life. At the time, I was sure I'd been played. The others in the dorm all said it was great that she was gone. The snow outside had been cleared, and in the sunlight, you could clearly see a dark stain on the ground. It was from Nina's blood seeping into the pavement. Someone really had killed her. She said she knew something she shouldn't have. What could it be? In the dorm, 6 people in total. Besides Nina, 1 other person had died, Eliza Scott. That left Anne, Sandy, and Fiona. And was Nina's lackey, always ordered around, even forced to eat Nina's leftovers. Sandy was Nina's high school classmate, kind of plain looking. She'd once confessed to the campus heartthrob and got rejected, a story Nina loved to tell as a joke, over and over. And Fiona, Nina had stolen her financial aid for low-income students. So Fiona reported Nina to the school for using the aid to buy designer bags. Nina had thrown a basin of dirty foot water on her in front of everyone in the dorm, arrogantly retorting, "That's discrimination. Are poor students not allowed to have designer bags?" Everyone had a reason to hate Nina. But was it enough to make them kill her? Fiona came back from giving her statement to the police. She looked exhausted, slumping onto her bed. With something like this happening, everyone was scared. I didn't know what to say. So I stood up, thinking I'd get her a cup of hot water. As I passed her, Fiona suddenly said, "I found a chainsaw in Anne's locker." I froze. Was she saying and sawed off Nina's head? But you couldn't use something that loud in a dorm without anyone noticing. I looked at her, skeptical. Fiona continued, "Do you know how Eliza died?" My heart sank. It was an open secret. Our school has 2 campuses, connected by a hidden, dark underground tunnel. Everyone called it the shadow walk. Every few years, an unlucky girl walking that path alone at night would be followed and assaulted by a strange man. Afterwards, to cover it up, the school would often offer the victim a guaranteed spot in grad school to stop the story from spreading. Last fall, Eliza had also gotten one of those spots. And then, she jumped from the roof of the academic building. But what did that have to do with Anne? Fiona saw my confusion and slowly began to reveal some hidden truths. That day, it was Anne who tricked her into going to East Campus. I was shocked at first, but then I remembered, Eliza was a careful person. She never went out alone at night, let alone take the shadow walk. But my thoughts were even more jumbled. Why would Anne do that, and what did it have to do with Nina's death? Nina found out how Eliza died, so she was killed. After saying this, Fiona gave a strange smile. Now, you and I know this secret too. Who do you think Anne will kill first? The words barely out of her mouth, she suddenly shut up, staring blankly at the door. The doorknob, usually level, was tilted down. Someone was outside. I held my breath. After a moment of silence, Anne pushed the door open and walked in. Fiona shot me a look and slipped out of the dorm, hugging the wall. I tensed up, wanting to leave too. But that conversation had filled me with a creeping dread, and I stumbled, almost falling. Anne reached out to steady me. Her fingertips were ice cold, the chill spreading up my arm. I snatched my arm back as if shocked. She grabbed me again, hard, and whispered, "Lucy, did you know? It was Sandy who killed Nina." Fear made me swallow hard. I watched her mouth move, a bit dazed. She asked the same question Fiona had, "Do you know how Eliza died?" I forced myself to think clearly and tentatively asked, "Don't tell me, Sandy tricked her into going to East Campus?" She frowned, sized me up for a moment, then shook her head. "That, I don't know." I fell into a deeper panic, but her next words doubled it. She said, "It was Sandy who pushed her off. Nina died because she found out about this." I felt like I was sinking in a mental swamp. The more I tried to figure out the truth, the deeper I got. Fiona said Anne was the killer. And said Sandy was the killer. So, when Sandy came back, who would she point to? Fiona? Wasn't this forming a weird, closed loop? Now, we know too. Who do you think Sandy will kill first? Anne chuckled softly. Just then, the dorm room door burst open, and Sandy stood there, panting. Anne's smile vanished, and like Fiona, she hugged the wall and left the dorm. I stared at Sandy, waiting for her to come over and tell me her secret. But she didn't move, just looked at me in panic, her voice trembling. "Lucy, just now, Anne and Fiona, they were in a car accident at the school gate. She said the ambulance came, but they were already gone. The coroner's van took them away." "What nonsense are you talking about? And just left right in front of you." The fear made me a little hysterical. Sandy looked at me strangely. "What are you talking about?" She said I was the only one in the dorm. I pushed past her and ran downstairs. What the hell was going on? Why was everyone acting so weird? I desperately needed to get out and find the truth. We lived on the 3rd floor. I counted the floors in my head. But after going down 3 flights, I wasn't at the main entrance, but facing a white wall. There was a sign on it, a bright, clear number. It was like a ghost wall. I was trapped in a loop. I stubbornly kept going down, but I always ended up back on the 3rd floor. I was trapped in the dorm building. Only then did I realize how eerily quiet the building was. There was no one else here. Just me. I ran back to our room like a madwoman. The hallway was pitch black, only our dorm room had a light on. When I reached the door, I didn't go straight in. Instead, I pressed my ear to the door, listening carefully. Someone was talking. It was Anne and Fiona. Remembering Sandy said they died in a car accident, my hand recoiled. But it was too late. The door was yanked open. And, holding a kettle, bumped right into me. She looked terrible, like she had a lot on her mind. Fiona was lying on her bed, apparently sobbing quietly. I tried to act like I knew nothing and asked softly, "Where's Sandy?" The crying from the bed stopped abruptly. Fiona looked up at me, her eyes teary. "She's dead. Didn't you know?" And added, "This afternoon, she was in a car accident at the school gate. By the time the ambulance arrived, she was already gone. The coroner's van took her." After a pause, she muttered, "Something's wrong with this dorm." With that, and took her kettle and headed towards the hot water room. Even though it was dark, she walked steadily and quickly, disappearing from my sight in an instant. Fiona wiped her face and picked up her kettle. "I'll go get some hot water too. Lucy, be careful in the dorm." Just like Anne, she moved agilely through the dark hallway. I stood there, unable to process it all. Sandy said Anne and Fiona were dead, and they said Sandy was dead. Who was telling the truth? As I was thinking, the door opened again. It was Sandy. She came in carrying a bag of food. "Lucy, have you eaten? Come have some." Behind her, I could hear the patter of rain outside, and her bag was covered in water droplets. She could get out? Also, it seemed like she and the other two never appeared at the same time. I glanced at the floor. In the dim yellow light, Sandy's shadow stretched out. Dead people don't have shadows. Thinking this, I breathed a sigh of relief. Hunger pangs hit me, so I started unpacking the food with her. The moment I picked up the first bag, I dropped it in fright and stumbled back several steps. This brand of duck snacks, their shop closed down a month ago. I mustered the courage to check the date. Sure enough, it was over 20 days expired. "Sandy, when did you buy these snacks?" She looked up towards me, but her eyes were fixed on the floor. "Just now." Then she tore open the package, stood up, and walked towards me. "Lucy, try some. It's delicious." I looked at the moldy duck bones, horrified, and turned to run, but there was nowhere to hide in the small dorm room. I scrambled onto a top bunk. Sandy, holding the duck bone, kept spinning in place. I fumbled around the bed, trying to find something to defend myself with. Under the pillow, I felt a cold, flat object. It was a phone. The model was unfamiliar, not like anyone in the dorms. I tried to unlock it and found there was no password. A social media feed appeared on the screen, with a deleted status update at the top. I tapped re-edit, and several photos popped up. It was Nina at the beach. There was also a pre-written caption, "Early spring, watching the sea." I went into the photo album and found it was full of pictures of Nina. The very ones posted on her social media after she disappeared. So that was it. Someone had hacked her account and had been pretending to be her, posting updates. In the photo editing app, there were still a few drafts. You could see it was Nina's face photoshopped onto the bodies of other girls with similar figures. I was about to look for more clues. Suddenly, Sandy started coming towards the top bunk. She didn't climb up like a normal person, using her hands and feet. Instead, she kept her body stiff and just walked straight up, as if on flat ground. I didn't have time to think. I scrambled to the far end of the bed and jumped off. Sandy heard the noise, backed straight down, and turned towards me. I stuffed the phone in my pocket, yanked open the door, and ran out. The second the door closed, I suddenly remembered some details, and my heart lurched as if struck, a sharp pain shooting through me. That top bunk was my bed. And the reason the phone unlocked so easily, it wasn't that there was no password. It was because it recognized my fingerprint. Confusion and panic made me run wildly, bumping into things in the pitch darkness. The hallway was only a few dozen feet long, but I ran for what felt like forever. Suddenly, a lit-up dorm room appeared ahead. A sense of foreboding washed over me. I got closer and saw it was, indeed, 3. Our room, which should have been behind me, was now in front of me. I turned to run, but the dorm door opened. "Lucy, why don't you come in?" It was Anne. At least it wasn't Sandy, which meant she wouldn't be inside. I mustered my courage and went in. Fiona was already asleep, and an open book lay on Anne's pillow. "I'll memorize a few more pages and then sleep. You should get some rest too," I tentatively asked, "Sandy." Anne's expression hardened, and she said, seemingly displeased, "You're wondering why we're acting like nothing happened, right? But didn't I tell you about that? It's good that she's dead now. It's all over." I remembered in saying Sandy had killed Nina and Eliza, and that she might continue killing one or all of us. "Did you tell the police about this?" I still found it strange, but Anne didn't answer me. She snapped off the light, and soon, snoring sounds began. I had to climb into bed in the dark, pull the covers over my head, and secretly take out the phone to look for more clues. The messaging app on this phone was indeed logged into Nina's account. But all the chat histories had been deleted. Just as I thought that, a new message popped up. "You useless money pit, you died before you could earn back the money you owed me." The sender was labeled Mom. I sighed softly. It seemed that even though Nina was so beautiful and the campus queen, she couldn't escape being exploited and despised by a mother who clearly favored sons. I decided to check the Notes app. There was often important information there. However, just as I returned to the home screen, another new message popped up. I assumed it was more abuse from Nina's mother. I opened the message list, and my pupils dilated. This message was from Eliza. "Why wasn't it you who died?" That's what she sent. With trembling hands, I sent back several question marks. "Who are you?" The only response was a glaring red exclamation mark. I felt a wave of frustration for no reason, closed the messaging app, and opened the Notes app. There were several folders inside, all named with letters. The first one was called ES. At first, I wondered what it meant. Then I thought more carefully and suddenly realized, ES were Eliza Scott's initials. There were a few photos in the folder. The first was a screenshot of a money transfer. The recipient was named Jake. A familiar name. I closed my eyes and tried hard to remember who this person was, but my head started to ache, and I couldn't recall. I pulled my finger back from zooming in on the picture, and as the image shrank, I glimpsed the sender's name. How could it be? I gasped for breath, quickly throwing off the covers and panting. After calming down, I suddenly heard a squishing sound. Squish, squish. It was coming from directly below me. I leaned over and shone the faint light from my phone downwards. "Fiona, what are you doing?" I could vaguely see her two hands fumbling with something. "Ugh, it won't go in," her voice was muffled. The sound was irritating. I turned on the bedside lamp and shone it on the lower bunk. Fiona, she was mechanically stuffing her own intestines back into her stomach. Slimy, wet intestines were spilled all over her bed. Her head lolled as if unsupported, and I could faintly see blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. In a flash, I remembered Sandy saying Fiona and had died in a car accident. This was clearly what someone would look like if their stomach had been torn open in a crash. I screamed, scrambled out of bed, not even bothering with shoes, and ran towards the door. The sight that greeted me when I opened the door made my scream suddenly twice as loud. A headless body in a polka dot dress stood at the door, hands behind its back. Nina had a dress like that she was wearing it the day she disappeared. I could barely speak, stammering. "Lunina, aren't you dead?" Laughter came from behind the headless body. The hands that were behind its back came forward, one palm holding a head. The white pearl earrings on its ears glinted. The mouth on the head opened and closed. It said, "Lucy, you can lie to us, but don't lie to yourself. My name is Nina. I'm a psychiatrist. Lucy, my college classmate, is now my patient." The above is the confused and illogical narrative she often recounts during her treatment. After all these years, I never thought she would deceive herself by distorting her memories to this extent. What follows is the true story. 12 years ago, I stepped onto the university campus full of hope, ready to study my favorite subject, philosophy. There were 6 of us in our dorm room, all seemingly gentle and reserved art students. The day we first met, I happily thought everyone would be easy to get along with. But I never expected that one person, from the very beginning, harbored ill will towards me. That person was Lucy. To be precise, she harbored ill will towards the other 5 of us. It's just that Lucy was smart enough to hide this malice deep down, not showing it. But she still had her tells. The girl in our dorm named and was a bit socially anxious and didn't talk much. Once, when she wasn't around, we discussed trying to include her more in our activities to help her open up. So Lucy volunteered to ask and to eat with her. But that evening, after eating with her, and seemed unhappy. After lights out, I sent her a message, and, "What's wrong? Are you upset about something?" She replied, "I know you mean well. I'm poor, but there's no need to make me eat leftovers." I tried to smooth things over and comfort her. At the time, I thought maybe Anne was just a bit sensitive. Until, a few days later, I accidentally saw Lucy's diary. And as like a pathetic dog I just wave, and she comes running. She clearly doesn't want to eat my leftovers but doesn't dare refuse. That's right, she's a dog, a mutt raised on scraps from the countryside. Even though those words weren't about me, they were still jarring. So I took the diary and confronted her. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to read your diary. But isn't what you wrote too cruel?" She didn't argue, just looked at me innocently, and said pitifully, "I'm sorry, I was just writing for fun. I won't do it again." Seeing her so apologetic and sincere, I didn't press the issue further. I could only turn and leave, feeling a bit disheartened. Vaguely, I thought I heard her mutter, "Bitch, I'll gouge your eyes out sooner or later." But when I turned back to look, she still had that frightened, helpless expression. I thought I must have misheard. There was a girl in the dorm named Sandy. She was high school classmates with Lucy. When Sandy wasn't around, Lucy loved to tell us stories about Sandy chasing the school heartthrob in high school. Although she didn't say anything too outrageous, her tone and expression were full of ridicule. After finishing the story, she'd even pull out a photo of the heartthrob for us to pass around. After we looked at it, she'd wink and ask, "So, what do you all think?" I knew what she wanted to hear. The others obviously knew too, but everyone felt too awkward to indulge her. I replied calmly, "Sandy's pretty brave, daring to pursue someone she likes. That's impressive." Her expression visibly fell, a hint of malice in her eyes. Later, as she passed by me, I heard a faint but vicious two-faced bitch. This time, I wouldn't doubt my own ears. But what was more worth pondering was, how could she find that heartthrob's photo in 3 seconds flat? Much later, this suspicion was confirmed. Sandy said she had never chased that heartthrob. In fact, she had delivered a love letter for Lucy once. But after seeing Lucy's name on it, the heartthrob threw it straight into the trash. Probably holding a grudge, Lucy had switched the main character and told us the story. And she'd done plenty of similar things. Everyone saw what Sandy and Anne went through. We didn't want to make things too awkward openly, but privately, we distanced ourselves from her quite a bit. Lucy probably sensed it, but instead of backing off, she became even worse. Fiona and Anne both came from families that weren't well off, Fiona's situation being even worse. There was one spot for a student needing special financial aid in our class, and everyone assumed it belonged to Fiona. But on the day it was announced, the spot went to Lucy. The reason given was that she was an orphan. On the first day of university, a middle-aged woman had clearly come with her, and Lucy had called her mom. Fiona, of course, knew this and went to the admissions office to verify, only to find out Lucy's parents had died 5 years prior. She was indeed an orphan. So who was that woman? Soon, the financial aid money arrived, and Lucy used it to buy a mid-range luxury bag. That money could have covered Fiona's living expenses for a whole semester. So she reported Lucy. They had a huge fight in the dorm that day. Lucy had been casually soaking her feet, but after a call from the student advisor, her face darkened. She stood up, picked up the basin of water, and dumped it all over Fiona. Then she smashed the plastic basin to pieces, jabbing her finger at a soaked Fiona and screaming. "Are poor students not allowed to have nice bags? You hick. You're just jealous of others. Always doing shady things. People like you who love to snitch will never amount to anything." At that moment, everyone sided with Fiona and criticized Lucy. We all scrambled to help Fiona dry off, mop the floor, and clean up the plastic shards. And Lucy just stood there, staring at us menacingly. Once everything was cleaned up and Fiona had calmed down, everyone turned off their lights and went to bed. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I suddenly heard Lucy say, in a flat but firm voice, "You all have to die." If it hadn't been for that incident, her words might have really come true. After the conflict with Fiona, Lucy quieted down for a few days. She even tried to make nice with everyone. First, she bought a cake to apologize to Fiona and even voluntarily returned the financial aid money. Then she started trying to win people over one by appealing to their interests. That day, she handed me a ticket for a philosophy lecture on East Campus. This professor's lectures required advance booking and tickets were highly sought after I had been trying to get one for ages without success. The only downside was that it was at night, which meant going through the shadow walk. Lucy said, "Don't worry, I'll go with you." So I happily accepted the ticket. As it turned out, my dad was passing through the city on a business trip that day and asked me to have a quick dinner with him that evening. I hadn't seen my family since the semester started, so seeing my dad was naturally more important than the long-awaited lecture. Therefore, I gave the ticket to Eliza. I never imagined that this act would push her into an abyss from which she could never recover. When I got my dad's call, there was only half an hour left before the lecture started. I couldn't reach Lucy by phone, so Eliza thoughtfully told me to hurry to meet my dad. She would contact Lucy herself and they'd go together. Unexpectedly, no one could reach Lucy that day. Eliza had to go to the lecture alone. Perhaps she was also hoping for the best, thinking, "What are the odds?" But what if it wasn't a coincidence, but a carefully laid trap? After the incident, we all did our best to support and comfort Eliza. Especially me. The guilt was almost drowning me. Everyone overlooked one question: where had Lucy gone that day? Until the police caught the rapist. His name was Jake. That day, a police officer came to the dorm and asked us where Lucy and Eliza were. He said they had traced a sum of money in Jake's account back to Lucy. They suspected it wasn't a simple rape case, but a premeditated, hired crime. The instigator was very likely Lucy. Hearing this, a cold sweat broke out on my back. Lucy's target had been me. That day, she had also given me a fluorescent pendant, saying she would wear one too, so we could see each other in the dark. And the pendant, along with the ticket, ended up with Eliza. It was clearly a marker for the attacker. Lucy disappeared again, and Eliza was also missing. At the time, I thought, since her target was me, Eliza's disappearance probably had nothing to do with her. Just as my anxious heart was about to settle, Sandy came rushing back to the dorm. She said, "Lucy pushed Eliza off the roof." I ran desperately to the academic building. It was already surrounded by people. I managed to push my way to the front. Lucy had already been restrained. Poor Eliza was already covered with a white sheet. As Lucy passed me, she suddenly screamed hysterically. "You're all disgusting. She's even more disgusting than you. Why did she have to seduce my boyfriend?" Later, we found out that at the lecture that day, the guy sitting next to Eliza had fallen for her at first sight. And that guy was someone Lucy had a secret crush on. That night, we lay awake in the dorm, unable to understand. Why would a roommate we lived with day in and day out be hiding such a demon? After Lucy was taken away, we found a notebook in the dorm. It was a death note. In it, she had meticulously planned out how she would destroy each of us. She even ranked us. I was number 1. Her plan was for me to go through the shadow walk, have my reputation ruined, and be unable to face the world. But unexpectedly, a twist of fate led to Eliza being harmed instead. She had also listed intersections around the school with no security cameras, planning to get her driver's license quickly and then run us over. Run those bitches over until they're unrecognizable, bleeding from every orifice. That's what she wrote. What upset me most was that among the 5 of us, Eliza had the fewest conflicts with her. In the death note, Eliza was originally ranked last. Compared to the brutal fates of death or injury planned for the others, Lucy only intended to put a few cockroaches in Eliza's cup. Even though she hasn't annoyed me yet, I should teach her a little lesson first. Later, she probably found out that the guy she had a crush on liked Eliza. She circled Eliza's name in red pen, and all around it, she had forcefully written the word "die" over and over. The depth of the pen marks showed the peak of her hatred at that moment. Fear, regret, helplessness. After a torrent of complex emotions, the 4 of us who remained had to comfort each other. Lucy had been caught, it was all over. But then news came that Lucy had a mental illness. She wouldn't have to pay for Eliza's life. Before the end of my freshman year, 2nd semester, I dropped out of college. I went back to high school and started studying for the college entrance exams again. I was going to become a psychiatrist. So I went through 5 long years of undergrad, 3 years for my master's, and then 2 years of residency. 10 whole years, and I finally stood before Lucy again. This time, we weren't classmates or roommates, but doctor and patient. She really was very sick, projecting her own actions onto me. Fantasizing that she was the pure, innocent angel, and I was the wicked, two-faced bitch. Her thoughts were a jumble of truth and lies, completely muddled. Perhaps she thought that this way, the truth could be hidden, and she could be exonerated. And after getting to know her more deeply, I learned about 2 details that had puzzled everyone for a long time back then. First, she wasn't a real orphan at all. The woman we had seen during our college days was her biological mother. It's just that, as a child, her mother had sold her to a couple who couldn't have children. That woman didn't seem to like her, even seemed to hate her. She had always refused to acknowledge Lucy, so for a long time, Lucy was indeed legally an orphan. Second, we had all been one step away from death. She had, more than once, put drugs in the dorm's drinking water, but each time, we had all thought the water tasted strange, replaced the whole jug, and thus escaped. Several times, too, while we were airing our blankets downstairs, she had pushed flower pots off the balcony, but due to a miscalculation in angle, they had landed at our feet. And the day she pushed Eliza off the roof, she had prepared gasoline and matches. If Jake hadn't been caught, the entire dorm would probably have gone up in flames. And all of this, she had meticulously recorded in her phone's notes app. She even saved screenshots of her purchases of the tools for her crimes. My colleague said it was because she was projecting herself onto me, collecting evidence to try and bring me down. But I believe it was extreme narcissism. She was admiring her own actions, feeling satisfied by making us live in fear. Just like how killers always like to return to the scene of the crime. Actually, I discovered a third thing. Lucy had recovered. The way she looked at me changed from confused and unfamiliar to fearful, timid, and defiant. She recognized me. Soon, she first applied to change her attending psychiatrist, then passed her recovery assessment. The hospital notified her family, her biological mother, to pick her up for discharge. After causing Eliza's death, her biological mother had been forced to appear and take on guardianship responsibilities. During this time, I received countless anonymous threatening messages. The unfinished story can now continue. You think you're so beautiful, huh? Without those eyes, would you still be pretty? Do you know how long it takes to saw off an adult's head? It doesn't matter if you don't, I'll tell you soon enough. You know, right? This illness of mine, even if it gets better, it can relapse. And if I kill someone during a relapse, I still won't go to jail, you know. I read each one with a smirk. Well then, let's wait and see. On the day of her discharge, Lucy's mother didn't show up in the ward. She just told Lucy there was a minivan waiting for her downstairs. You could tell Lucy was extremely impatient. After finishing the paperwork, she grabbed her luggage and rushed downstairs. The car door was open, as if welcoming her back to freedom. She jumped into the car without a second thought, and then her face darkened. What, it's you? Of course, it was me. For the past dozen years, this was the moment I had been waiting for. To get you out of one cage, and then, put you into an even bigger one. Lucy, your mother only asked for 30,000. So sincere. So far, she hadn't realized what she was about to face. Instead, she sneered arrogantly. Nina, my mental illness will relapse. And when it does, killing someone isn't against the law for me. The words were barely out of her mouth when she realized there were more than just the two of us in the car. Lucy snapped back to reality and desperately tried to pull the car door open to escape. Too bad, it was too late. I had already locked the doors. Besides, someone from the back seat had already climbed to the front and was holding her tightly. I calmly steered the car, slowly driving out of the hospital. Lucy, I don't need to introduce them, do I? You should know them. I glanced in the rearview mirror at the three people sitting in the passenger seat and the back. They are your college classmates, Anne, Sandy, and Fiona. What do you want? She thrashed her shoulders wildly, trying to break free. Don't waste your energy. Sandy does martial arts. 3 of you might not even beat one of her. The car headed towards a house out in the country. Everyone in the nearby village knew that 4 good friends lived here, 4 strange, older, unmarried women. But what they didn't know was that from now on, this would be Lucy's hell. Night fell, and we finally reached our destination. When no one was looking, we brought Lucy into the house. She looked around in terror and started screaming at the top of her lungs. I smiled at her. Go ahead and scream. Scream your lungs out, it's no use. This place is lined with thick soundproofing. Even if we partied all night, no one would complain. She screamed until she was tired, slumping against the wall, but her eyes still glared at me fiercely. I looked at her with a smile. Lucy, do you know why I became a psychiatrist? Because I wanted to cure you. I want you to be lucid when you face the rest of your life. To consciously suffer, to experience all your hatred with no outlet. I pulled the other 3 over. We stood before Lucy like 4 mountains. As you can see, Sandy is a martial artist. And Anne, she's a surgeon now. Fiona is a lawyer. Thanks to you, we've had to shatter our lives and piece them back together. Sandy has been training us in basic self-defense. We're not professionals, but we can quickly catch someone trying to escape and make them suffer a bit, no problem. Fiona, she guides us smoothly through the gray areas of the law. Don't ask. If you do, the answer is we're just looking out for an old classmate with violent tendencies and a high chance of a mental illness relapse. And Anne, she knows the human body best. Where to cut so it hurts like hell but isn't fatal, no one knows better than her. And she can stitch it up perfectly afterwards. Lucy killed someone, but we're the ones burdened with the weight of that murder for life, a heavy load we can't shake off. The course of our lives, from the moment we first gathered in room 306, became irreversible. The north wind howled, beating relentlessly against the windows. It was snowing again.